the ball here. All right, let's talk the Christian Watson contract first and foremost here. We're getting a few details coming out here. This came from Ian Rappaport. I want to get your all's take on it, guys. Ian Rappaport tweeted out details on the Packers extension for wide receiver Christian Watson. 1 year, $11 million base extension, under contract for 2 years and nearly $13 million. $6 million guaranteed, all signing bonus, it says. The $11 million includes $1.85 million 46-man roster bonuses next year. So essentially what you got, we got him still under contract this year. We got him under contract next year, right? And what it turns into is 2 years, $13 million, right? So he's going to get fronted that money, I imagine immediately, that $6 million. So why would Christian sign a 1 year deal? If the knee does bum up out on him, he's got a little bit of security there, right? That's $6 million in the bank, good to go. And if it does work out, this gives the Packers an opportunity, I feel like, to, hey, showcase that you're the old Christian Watson, everything's good to go. I love the fact that both parties came together and acted in good faith, like, hey, look, man, we appreciate the leader you are. We appreciate what you know what this reminds me of, Tim, Emilio? It reminds me of the Jordan Love contract. Remember when they did that kind of 1 year patch it deal? Jordan, I felt like, didn't need to take that deal. He could have held their feet to the fire, right?
But he didn't.
But the fact that he signed that contract, Tim, tells me the type of person he is and what he thinks of this organization and how he feels about this team specifically. I get the same vibe from Christian Watson. And I also credit Goody for doing that too with the $6 million signing bonus. It's kind of like hey, look, man, we see what you're doing. You're in here all off season long working with these guys and trying to get back as quick as possible. I absolutely love it. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a win-win, right? It's a win for the team, and it's a win for Christian Watson, right? You have absolute faith in him, and you don't want that hard work to go unnoticed. The timing of that knee injury was terrible. I think this is the best way to handle it. It gives him some peace of mind, and it gives the Packers some flexibility as well. I think this is a win-win scenario. So hats off to Scoot for signing the deal, and to Goody and Russ Ball and the boys for making it happen.
And as Jen Wright says here, Emilio, $13 million versus the $22 million that the fifth-year option would have been. That's what we mean by Christian Watson. Kind of feels like he did the Packers a favor, because if he turned down that contract offer, right, from the Packers, Emilio, and he hits free agency, he's getting more than $6.5 million. I think we would all agree, right? I mean, if he's healthy. So that's why I tip my cap to Christian a little more than I do the Packers, but also tip my cap to the Packers somewhat as well.
Right. Yeah. No, I was a little off yesterday saying that 10 was guaranteed, but right idea. They wanted to go get Christian in the first round when they drafted him, but they wouldn't trade him that first round pick. So we're getting what basically becomes a 5th-year option at this point, with a second round player and on a cheap deal. We love the clearance rack. We want that yellow sticker item. But I'm happy that Christian got a little bit in the bank. He knows that, hey, I got a little bit to make a living on moving forward if nothing else happens. But we expect a lot out of him, and that's why they gave him that bridge. Let's give you a fair chance at it without having to overwork yourself just to make something happen.
Exactly.
All right. So again, those are the details. Now I want to take it a step further real quick before we get into the preview here. As Clint Armchair Quarterback says, we have high character players, no doubt about that. And Deadfish asks, can they do something like that with Dobbs now, but maybe 3 years? It's a little bit different with Dobbs, right? Dobbs is healthy. With Christian, the injury definitely plays a big role in how this is one of those unique 1 year deals, right? Or 1 year extension, I should say. So Deadfish, I think it's kind of hard to come up with an idea like that works for Romeo Dobbs, because Romeo, listen, if he goes out and he has a great year, here's what's crazy. If we say he has 750 yards receiving and say 8 touchdowns, right? Some would say that's a great deal or a great year. Others would say, no, not so much. On the open market with those kind of numbers, probably going to land you 15 to 20 million per, right? It probably will. That's how the market is so inflated at the wide receiver position. So with what he's saying here, Deadfish, I want to get your all's take on it. I just don't see a scenario where it makes sense for them to extend Dobbs. Because what it's really going to come down to is you got to make a decision in 2 years. After next year is where the real decision is made. Who's going to be your number one receiver? When I say number one, I don't mean someone you just force the ball to. I mean someone they're going to get paid number one wide receiver money. I still don't even know Christian Watson's going to be that guy if he doesn't crack 1,000 yards. You know what I mean? Because you can look up and go, all right, we got other guys that can do that as well. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but I'm going to pull up the contracts for the wide receiver room. But get your all's take on that real quick. What Deadfish said. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah,
go ahead, Emilio.
I'm not sure. I wouldn't think that they'd be able to do that. I think you're looking at Dobbs right now with his stock kind of rising from where we got him in the fourth and everything like that. And I was thinking about it. Goody lost 2 of his first round picks, not in a bad way, but they're gone now, right? So we might need to figure out a way to recoup it. How many times has he gone into a draft with less than the 7 allotted picks? I don't know if it's happened in his tenure. So he's normally an extra pick. Let's get as much as we can out of it. I would think maybe he's might be looking at reimbursing himself at some point. If it's Romeo, that's going to suck, but at some point somebody needs to get paid. And if he's producing and you don't see a future with him, or you don't think that he's part of the 53 next year or the year after that, then that's when you start looking at it. Hey, we might need to move on, or we might need to get compensation for him before that week 8. To try to get this taken care of.
I agree. I think it's just, it's not show friends, it's show business, right? It's a business first. You applaud your front office for making the difficult decisions, but I mean, we've got depth in this receiver room, and Emilio brings up a good point. Like, if you're looking forward, we talk about cash over cap, we talk about dead money, we talk about void years, all these things, kicking the can down the road. Bottom line, you're looking at your personnel. Like we're gonna have to really pay Matthew Golden at some point, right? Despite him getting a deal done, he's going to want a second contract. We don't know what's going on with Scoot because he's still rehabbing. Tay Wicks certainly looks a lot better right out of the gate than he did this time last year. There's a lot of conversations that are going to be difficult that need to be had when you look at the receiver room. And if Rome ultimately doesn't end up being a Packer long term, it has nothing to do with Romeo Dobbs and everything to do with the money, right? It's a business decision at that point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's where you run out of. We got a lot of dudes in there, and we have not enough spaces eventually, and especially if you got a tight end that's doing it, it's not the old school, 5 wide sets. We don't have zero. We don't have a 0-0 package too often. If you're talking 12, 11, stuff like that, it's very rare we have 5 wides out there. So you just run out of spots on the roster for them, honestly.
Right.
Yeah. Especially when it comes to stretching the field, right? Because there's multiple threats now that can stretch the field.
Yeah. And when you're modeling your roster, you've got to have a plan, right? It really, what we're looking at is a 3-year window with Micah Parsons having small cap hit numbers until it completely blows up in year 4. And then at that point, you got to decide, all right, we keep him. I personally think they will keep him, and they'll do the void years on the backside, right? So whether you keep him or not, a little bit of that bill is going to come due in 4 years. And it doesn't mean, oh my God, we're in cap hell. It just simply means the money's got to come from somewhere. Right. So when you look at this wide receiver room, okay, Romeo Dobbs has the highest cap hit for 2025 right now, $3.5 million. Matthew Golden at $3.1 million. Christian Watson, $2.9 million. This is before the contract, so this may jump up unless they just backload it again. We got to see the structure of the contract. Jaden Reed, $1.9 million. Savion Williams, $1.1. Dontavion Wicks, $1.1. And Malik Heath, $1 million flat. So Romeo Dobbs not under contract next year, okay? Matthew Golden under contract for 4 years. Christian Watson now under contract through next year. Jaden Reed through next year. Savion Williams 4 years. Dontavion Wicks through next year. And Malik Heath is pretty much, we got rights to him for, I think, 3 years if we want to keep him, whether it's restricted free agency or whatever, the rules fall into place there. So there's only one of these guys that's not under contract for next year, and it's Romeo Dobbs. So if you decide to give him a 3-year deal, right? I can't remember who it was saying it now in the chat there. Might have been Deadfish. If you decide to give him a 3-year deal, understand that if that's a 3-year deal, and let's say it's $15 million per, that's the receiver you're paying. So when Christian Watson's contract is up next year, you're probably not paying him right? You're probably not going to pay Dontavion Wicks, and some would probably be okay with that. You're probably not going to pay Jaden Reed. And if you're going, well, Clayton, you always say you model out the roster for 2 wide receivers getting paid big money. You do. When was the last time the Packers did that? Okay, you're looking for precedent. When was the last time they paid 2 wide receivers top money? All right. It's been a long, long time. Okay. On top of that, as you model the roster out and you get into, 2, 3 years down the road, is Romeo Doubs going to be that guy in terms of deployment that's going to be the difference maker you need in your roster or on your team? With Matt LaFleur's offense and his scheme, F and Z are more important than X. Romeo is a great a good X receiver, right? Maybe very good, kind of between good and very good, in my opinion. So you got to look at it from that standpoint too. Guess who else is going to need a contract soon? It's going to be Tucker Kraft.
Yep.
So if you're saying let's choose Romeo Doubs over Tucker Kraft's extension, don't like that. You know what I mean? I would rather pay Tucker Kraft, let Romeo walk, and you still got these guys under a decent contract. It's really going to come down to Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson, but you got to make the decision on Dobby this year, essentially, if you're going to extend them or not. Because once he gets
explain the trade rumors, right? Between now and the deadline. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do think there's a realistic chance they deal him before the deadline. Yeah. I personally don't think it would be worth it unless you could get like a 3rd round pick. If it's all right, we're just going to get a 5th round pick for it, Emilio, I would much rather have Romeo Doubs in his contract year, proving what he can do in the playoffs and potentially the Super Bowl if we make it that far, right?
Because he'll still go get his money, but he'll be producing for the team at that point. Absolutely. I was going to ask you what would be that minimum you take. And, man, I was kind of thinking about it. I'd have to at least get what we got him for. It'd have to be a 4th at bare minimum, maybe 2 fourths, something that you can move up with. I would say a 3rd is ideal, a 2nd for sure. And, you swing a 1st, even if it's like a 3rd and a 5th or, a 3rd and a 6th or something along those lines. It was who was it? The Eagles just traded for they traded for a running back, and it was like they got a 4th and a 5th or something just to get this running back from I'll have to pull it up, but it's like we might not think that there's value there, but someone on an NFL team may say, hey, no, we need him on this team. What is it going to cost you to give them the price, and we're off to the races? Yeah. Tank Bigsby. Thank you, Solder. Tank Bigsby just got traded for 2 picks. So, I mean,
our viewers are awesome.
When's the last time you heard about Tank?
Right, exactly, right. Now, he's a good kick returner, if I remember correctly, right? So maybe they're looking at it from a value standpoint there, but I just love that you can mention a player without saying their name, and the chat automatically knows who you're talking about. Well, we get the best freaking viewers, man. It's awesome.
Me, man. I appreciate it. I would have been digging a hole there.
Soder was on it as soon as you said Eagles. He was on it right away.
right. Tim, you and I think we both agree we really like Romeo Doubs, right? We defended the hell out of him when he got suspended last year. It's like, hey, man, you don't know what somebody's going through, this and that. Obviously people talked about mental health and some other factors. We defended him till the cows come home. When it comes down to business, I think I've made my point pretty clear where I stand here. I don't think he's the dude of the future. Would you rather keep Romeo? I'm kind of put your feet to the fire a little bit. Would you rather keep Romeo and let Christian Watson walk after next year? Or would you how would you approach that? You know what I mean? It's a tough decision, but it's a decision that's got to be made, because the one guy I want to keep personally, along with one of those two, is Jaden Reed.
Yeah.
Like, I got to extend him, in my opinion, and then it'll be either Romeo Doubs or Christian Watson.
That's kind of where my thought process goes. How do we keep Bird in the fold for us in the future? And if you're holding my feet to the fire, I'm probably going to take Scoot over Rome just because of the higher ceiling, I think. Mm-hmm. Certainly, more explosive, I guess, of a receiver. Hell of a blocker, hell of a deep threat. I think, comparing those two, I would let Rome go. But I like your sentiment. I agree with, much like we're seeing with Quay right now in kind of a prove it year. And we've seen one game of football from Quay, and despite what PFF says, I think Quay played a hell of a game on Sunday, and I'm sure he's going to play a hell of a game tomorrow night. But you'd rather keep a guy like Rome here to go ahead and audition for his next contract, because if he helps us win a Super Bowl in the process, I'll take it. I'd hate to, dump him, like Emilio's saying, for like a 5th round pick or, couple of draft picks, and then we clear some room right now. But what about the rest of this year, right? NFL's not for long. The window is open for this Packers team, and you've got a lot of weapons in the arsenal. Unless you get a sweetheart deal for a trade, I would keep Rome here, and then let him test the market. And obviously he'll be walking and getting his money somewhere else. But to me, it's better than trading him for something less than he's worth, honestly.
Yeah. Chris the Casuan says they are choosing Watson and Reed, so that's his pick. If I had to choose, if I can choose 2 receivers to extend for the future, along with Tucker Kraft, right? I'm going Watson and Reed, me personally. Right. Yep. And I listen.
Tucker Kraft being the outlier, like you said, that's the main one we have to really talk about, kind of the elephant in the room here.
I would rather pay 1 receiver and Tucker Kraft than pay 2 receivers and not keep Tucker Kraft.
And not keep Tucker Kraft, exactly.
But if you can have all 3, then that's the route I would go. And listen, if you're a Packer fan that's going, but Watson's been hurt, he can't stay on the field, blah blah blah. I get it. I understand that argument too. And I think there's a valid point to be made that, hey, look, it wouldn't be worth it to take a risk on guaranteeing a 3 to 4 year contract, and then he ends up on the IR again. I understand that sentiment. I'm going to choose to believe he's good. He's over it now. After they got the hammy issue taken care of. Again, the knee thing, it is what it is, man. We seen what started that whole thing, and him having to put more pressure on the other knee and this and that was when he made that catch. Was it in Pittsburgh, Emilio? Am I thinking right? Where the guy landed on his leg and he got the knee bruise?
I want to say it was, but
I can't remember if it's Pittsburgh or it might have been somebody else. Anyway, he made a catch in the end zone, and it was just a freak play where the defender tripped and landed right on his knee. Right. I mean, it's like, I'm not going to look at that play and go, oh, guy's injury prone. Anybody who has a player fall on their leg like that, it's just like when someone gets rolled up on. Somebody gets rolled up on. It's unfortunate. We got to make sure that Christian Watson is the same player now, right? That's something. And we got 2 years to do it, which is great news, or 1.5 years roughly. So,
and it's not like Rome's getting any taller. You know what I mean? Like you also paid for your just physical ability and stance currently. It's not, I mean, if you're spending money on it, most of the time you're going to try to buy the, biggest and baddest type thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
And Jen Wright did point out Watson played 15 games last year. He did, right? And that's why, Jen, I'm feeling a little more comfortable with it. I'm just simply saying I understand those folks that.
I wish you would have played 14 games last year. Mm-hmm. Gave up that last appearance, right?
Yeah,
you wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
So tough, man. So tough. Let's see. Aaron Rodgers says, I'd still trade Romeo Doubs for Cleveland's Greg Newsome cornerback. That's going to be a no from me, dog. I respectfully disagree there. And me and you disagree on 99% of the stuff that we cover together, man. But yeah, I definitely would not. I would not take that trade. I'm not a big Greg Newsome fan. I'm not a big believer there. And again, you guys know how I feel about the cornerback room as well. I'd
rather see more Micah Robinson, honestly.
I would rather see, whatever, another draft pick taken at the corner. I would rather have another Carrington Valentine in the 7th round than Greg Newsome. I'm being completely honest. Like, Carrington Valentine, in my opinion, is a far better player than a Greg Newsome. Now, I know not, players of that caliber aren't always going to make it to the 7th round. More times than not, they're not going to. But appreciate your comment there, Aaron, for sure. Chase Green says, Clayton, you had said it before, wide receiver is not a tier 1 position. I'd rather invest money and picks into offensive tackles and D tackles, not wide receiver. Let's approach it from that opinion there, Chase. I think you make a great point. If we let both Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson walk after next year, who's to say that Matthew Golden isn't the dude, right? Mm-hmm. What if he is the dude? Then I feel good about Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, right? And of course, our Tucker Kraft, having Tucker Kraft at tight end. So I understand that sentiment there as well. And maybe you're even saying let Jaden Reed walk. I'm too drunk to taste that chicken because I feel like Reed. Yeah, I feel like Reed is really valuable.
You also don't know what Savion's going to do. I mean, you have other options, and it's always just kind of the next ladder up. I mean, you got guys on their 4 years left, 3 years left, and that's kind of just how you got to take a look at it.
Right, and he's spot on talking about the tiers of importance, right? Edge, defensive tackle, offensive tackle, and of course quarterback. However, if you look at that from kind of a global perspective, there, look at the teams who won the Super Bowl last year. Philadelphia Eagles, right? Did they have a number 1 receiver? A.J. Brown, right? A.J. Brown was one of the best receivers in the league. So that's the recent model. So if the choice is, okay, let's don't worry about having one of those top tier receivers, and if you've got them in house, you can extend them. You're deviating away from what's worked here lately, right? So Philly won it last year. Who won it the year before? Was it Kansas City, or was it not? Who won the Super Bowl? It feels like it's a lifetime ago.
That was Kansas City because they were going for the three-peat.
Right. Who was their top receiver when they won it the last time? Now that was one of those things where they didn't really have a top receiver, did they?
Yeah. Yep.
Travis Kelce.
Travis Kelce at tight end. And listen, he is a receiver. He's more of a receiver than he is a tight end. They'll flex him out in the Y and just go, listen, run whatever route you think is going to be open, and Patrick Mahomes is going to throw you the ball. That's what they were doing that year.
A great example with Kansas City, right? Talk about a team that invests in the trenches. O-line, D-line. I mean,
D-line especially. I mean, that defense has been carrying them. And I know it's hard to believe because Patrick Mahomes is such a polarizing player, but man. Anyway, so
I think there's truth to what Chase is saying, though. Rather invest the money into picks or O tackles or D tackles.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, it's we may have differing opinions on how to build it out, but I think we're all kind of on the same page with just slight little tweaks here and there with the roster on how to get to where you want to get. So anything else you guys want to hit on the wide receiver room and that Christian Watson contract? Anything at all?
Just real quick, Joseph in the chat said, when is the trade deadline? Figured I'd pass that on. Tuesday, November 4th, 4 p.m. Eastern is your trade deadline for 2025, guys.
Yeah. Aaron Rodgers with the super chat says, all this screams win the Super Bowl now while they're all on contract. It really does. And again, Aaron, the fact that we're having a conversation on whether we want to keep these multiple receivers, what's Bill Walsh say, or what he did say? He's no longer with the team, by the way. Rest in peace, Bill Walsh. But what did he say always? Wide receiver, last piece you put in place, right? Last piece you put in place. So the fact that we're talking about wide receiver tells you window's open.
And that's become more true even in this day with all the 7-on-7 and like kids they're ready to play college ball as 15 years old, right? And then you get out there and you're ready to play NFL ball by junior year. So it's they have skill.
Yeah, they are well prepared today, man. They said receivers come out of high school now and into college, and they're ready to go. And then it's even more so true coming out of college into the pros, which is why you've seen here recently more first-round pick wide receivers are starting to kind of hit because they're just better prepared. But thank you for the super chat, Aaron. Appreciate it.